So continuing in our series, we have the unpredictable worshipper. When my wife asked me about what it was that I was sharing with you today, and I said the unpredictable worshipper, she was questioning about whether I was keeping my shirt on or not again. And I said, yeah, maybe that was a different sermon, and it might have fitted. But I will be keeping my shirt on today. The unpredictable worshipper. I want to start by sharing a story. We had one of our songs by Matt Redman, and he tells a story. He's a worship leader, and he gets invited all over the place and so on, and he used to live in Watford. And he, with his pastor, were invited to go to Norway. Looking around for people from Norway in the room. He was invited to go to Norway, and he was kind of looking forward to going to Norway. And then he discovered that, or remembered, that his pastor had a fear of flying. So he was a bit busy and a bit kind of agitated and so on, but he suddenly thought, hang on a minute, I could be taking a flight. I could be driving to the airport, 40 minutes or so, an hour and a half flight, and then we'll be there in Norway. Instead, he had to accompany his pastor for, if I get this right, a 6-hour drive to get to a ferry, and then a 26-hour ferry crossing all the way up to Norway. And he was pretty annoyed about this. And he was feeling a little bit grumpy about himself. And on the journey getting to the ferry, he was kind of really getting himself wound up. And then he got on the ferry thinking, I've got 26 hours of just sitting on a ferry when I could have flown. And then he thought, well, maybe there's something to entertain me around here. And the only thing he could find was bingo. Bingo for 26 hours. Wonderful. So you can imagine that as he got off the ferry at the other end and he got ready for their program that they were doing, he was winding himself up. He was not in the best of moods. To make things worse, he said that as he started the leading the worship, things just didn't fall into place. He didn't get too much response from the audience, the congregation that he was with, and just things didn't feel right and so on. And he just thought, this is just bombing out. This is just so bad. And then he had something come to him in his mind. He thought, sing a song that's in the charts. And he describes how he's having this mental conversation, seemingly him and God. And what? He's playing away, he's singing this. Oh, I'm not going to sing a pop song. What do I want to sing a pop song for? This is worship, God. Again, he got this impression. Sing a song that's in the charts. And he describes how, against his own better judgment, he suddenly finds himself standing there in front of everyone, and he kind of got this impression, look, it can't get any worse anyway, so why not give it a go? He starts strumming the chords and trying to find his way through the chords of a song. Another day has gone. I'm still all alone, starts the verse. And maybe some of you will recognize the chorus of the Michael Jackson song that was in the charts at the time. And there, during this worship setup, there's Matt Redman thinking, what am I doing? This is suicidal. He starts singing this song, and then he sings the words. But you are not alone. I am here with you. Though we're far apart, you're always in my heart. You are not alone. He couldn't understand what he had just done. This was strange and bizarre. And as he was finishing up at the end of the service, he's packing away his guitar and so on, and he describes how this bunch of teenagers come walking down to the front to hang out with him, and it turns out that they're not Christian, they're not believers, and this seemed to be the only connection that they had with this worship service, or at least it was the entry wedge, and then they felt more connected and followed on with the talk. So Matt felt fairly good about that. Okay, God, maybe that was the reason. But he still felt a bit silly about it. And then he describes how he's carrying his stuff out. And there in this darkened auditorium, he notices a figure walking towards him. And this woman presents herself before him, and she has tears running down her cheeks. And they start talking together. It turns out that she's traveled 6 hours just to be there for that program. 6 hours. And as they talked, she said, I came here and I was having a discussion with God. I said, God, where are you in my life? Because I feel all alone. God, I'm giving you one last chance to turn up in my life. I'm coming to this meeting, and you're going to have to show me yourself. She said, amidst all this worship, she said, God spoke to me. When you sang those words, you are not alone. I am here with you. Matt felt that was a strange, unpredictable kind of experience. One that he doesn't normally participate in, and I don't suppose he sings Michael Jackson every time he gets up to lead worship anymore. But unpredictable turned out to be something that was a blessing for other people. Unpredictable, being an unpredictable worshipper, means that you are available to God and that you're ready to give God. We sang about changing our heart. In a little while, I think we'll be singing about I surrender all. But are we really ready to surrender all? Are we ready to surrender all? Should we give God what is right in our life and not just give God what is left? So the scripture reading. There they are. The way it's depicted in Mark, it seems like it's a few days before the Passover, before this whole process that Jesus knew that he was going to end up being taken away and murdered on a cross. And this woman comes into the room. There were all sorts of people there and people that had been healed. Simon had been healed of leprosy. But one commentary said he understood that Jesus maybe was a good teacher, possibly a prophet, but he hadn't realized that this man was the Messiah. And though he had been healed of leprosy, things hadn't fitted together properly yet in his mind. And then this woman, seemingly of ill repute, we say, this woman comes in And while they're all laying there, reclining, it says, I think in this translation, they're eating a meal, kind of leaning forward, huddled together, reaching forward and eating and sharing. When you understand the way that people would have eaten their meal, kind of laying down, resting on one arm and eating like this, you realize, like it said at the Last Supper, where John rests his head against Jesus' chest, this is the close proximity that they had when they were eating together. So she would have, in order to get this perfume over Jesus' head, she would have kind of had to lean forward and reach over people. But this didn't stop her from expressing her wish to worship Jesus, because she realized that through Jesus she had gained forgiveness. I have in my pocket somewhere a very little thing of perfume, and I don't know if this is going to make any effect whatsoever, but I'll do it anyway, and maybe you can come up and smell later. But this woman came in with the intention to anoint Jesus with this perfume. I have no idea how much is in this. My eyesight is such that I can't even see the tiny little writing if it was on there. And I buy my wife perfume every year, and she tries to eke it out for the whole 12 months and then complains when she gets to 11 months and I've run out. And that's just a little bottle, and I know how much that cost. And this says the disciples and people in there, they were talking and chatting, and after she did this act, they were saying, why did she do this? This could have been sold for a year's wages. Now, I had a little look at how much people earn in the UK. According to Google this week, men on average, and when we look at averages, we think, well, this isn't real life, is it? But anyway, on average, it says that men earn about the 30,000 mark, and on average, women earn about 25,000. Now, I don't think that that's just an indication of the differential between the gender gap and payment, because it means that some people are working full-time, part-time, and all that kind of thing as well. But 25,000, 30,000 pounds worth of perfume. Oh, man. How much my wife would love me if I came home with 25,000 pounds worth of perfume. Well, no, she'd probably ask me why haven't I fixed the fence with some of it. But she came in, and with this perfume, poured it all over Jesus' head. Sorry if you come up and have a look at this and you think, oh, that's a nice perfume. Why did you waste it? The perfume started to fill the room. You may not smell that. You may not smell it yet. You may not smell it at all. I don't know if this is going to fill this room, this tiny bit. But if you walk past someone that has just put on the deodorant or aftershave or that nice perfume behind her ears, and she anointed Jesus with this expensive perfume. Extravagant. It was not something that these people saw as being predictable. You see, acts of worship are not always predictable. It's not that we should think of, well, anything goes. But just think about you and your life when you come to this place of worship, and we kind of know what the order of service is and so on. But what would being an unpredictable worshipper look like to you and for you? What if you were extravagant in your expression of your faith to God? It doesn't have to be perfume, but it might be the unusual, and it's definitely the extravagant. A simple message. And a simple little story. But Jesus said, look, you might object to her behavior, but her extravagance is going to be remembered. Her extravagance of her worship of Jesus. So I invite you today to think about when you come to worship, but also in your expression of faith to other people. Are you ready to be an unpredictable worshipper? Are you ready to be extravagant for Jesus? I'm mindful of the closing lines of a film. Any one of you, young ones, old ones, any of you have seen Ratatouille? Yeah? A favourite maybe? Your faces lit up. And I'm mindful of, is it Remy, the rat, the main character? And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the film Ratatouille, it's a cartoon-type film of a rat that can cook or learns to cook, and he helps someone else out and so on. I won't spoil the whole story for you. But he comes to an end, and they're all found out, and there's a character who comes to look and review the food that has been prepared in this restaurant. And he gives a raving review that's not till after he is told that it was a rat that cooked his food. A rat who just made a simple peasant dish called ratatouille. And now at the end of the film, you have this man, Anton Ego, and he's reclining a little bit more at leisure, a little bit more of a smiley face. And the rat, Remy, comes in and he asks him, would you like a dessert? Anton Ego says, yes, of course. What would you like? And I imagine that to be the kind of question that we can ask God as we approach God in our attempt to worship God. What would you like, God? What would you like? And God, just like Anton Ego, turns to us and says, surprise me. Surprise me. May we go out from this place ready to extravagantly surprise God in our expression of faith and worship